You see the live thing in the corner?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, we're live.
Okay. A few more minutes. I have 7:26.
Here we go.
Oh, you've got a background up.
I do.
Yeah. You've got
Hi,
the,
Tom.
How do I get that out of there?
Hi, Tom.
How are
Hi,
you?
Wendy. I'm okay.
San
Thank you.
Francisco, huh?
You got a fancy background there today, Tom.
Yeah.
We were playing around with it with our nieces and nephews. That's more.
Okay.
Am I still in?
You're there now.
Am I
Yeah, you're
connected,
here.
guys?
Yep, you're good.
Yep,
Yep,
connected.
we can hear you.
Okay,
We can
thank you.
hear you good too.
You sure?
Yeah, I'm good.
And for a little bit.
I'll text you if I need you. Thanks.
Sharon's on, right? She's just blacked out. Carrie?
Yes, I am on. I'm trying to work my other computer so I can have
Okay.
two screens up.
Hi there. Okay,
Hi, everybody.
how are you?
Sharon.
Hi, Sharon.
Michael, did you cut your own hair?
I
Looks
found
good.
a means of getting it cut. Thank you.
There you go. Looks good. I'm jealous.
Thanks. It was a liberating feeling. I never felt it was a great feeling getting it cut. The last meeting, the hair was a mess. And more
Listen,
reasons
we're all in the same boat.
required the baseball cap. So.
I have 7:30.
I was just gonna say, I have 7:30. Okay, I hereby announce that pursuant to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided in the notice which was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and posted on the bulletin board in Township Hall and filed in the Township Clerk's office on May 7th, 2020. Mayor Bontempo,
Here,
Ms. Weber,
hear me?
Here.
Ms. Weber? Okay. Dr. Pascucci? He is not present. Dr. Pascucci? Okay. Mr. Santana?
Here,
Mr. Santana? Okay.
here.
Okay, Mayor, you have a quorum. Okay,
Thank you. Everyone, please
pledge, Mayor?
rise.
I'm
for
here.
the,
Did we
Wendy,
get
I'm here
Committeeman
too.
Curtelli?
Yes.
Yeah, Committeeman Curtelli.
No, you didn't call
Yes.
Tom.
I thought I thought
I'm
I
here.
did. I did. Okay. Okay, Mr. Critelli, thank you. I think I might have been going out for a minute. I'm not sure. Okay, Mayor, you have a quorum. We're just missing Dr. Pescucci.
Thank you. Everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United States of America,
to the republic,
to the republic,
which
which stands
one nation,
one nation, under God,
Indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
justice for all. Everyone, please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor both our troops, both home and abroad, who protect us tirelessly each and every day, and also a moment of silence for all those that lost their lives to this terrible illness that's affecting each and more lives. Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Do them individually? When do you want them broken down separately?
I'll read them if you want. Approval of minutes which were forwarded to the Township Committee on May 5th, 2020 for review. March 10th, 2020, executive public sessions. April 14th, 2020, public session, and April 28th, public session.
Do you have a
Motion?
motion?
Move.
Second.
Is there a second? Vote, please.
Second. Can you hear me?
Gosh,
Repeat that, please.
I'm sorry, are we breaking up? I don't know what's going on right now. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Breaking
seems-
up a little.
Yeah, it seems as though there's some internet
Santana.
lag. I heard a motion from, I heard a motion from Deputy Mayor Weber, seconded by Committeeman Santana
And then-
for approval of the minutes.
Correct. Okay. So roll call? Mr. Critelli?
Roll call, please.
Yes,
Mr. Critelli?
yes,
Dr. Pescucci's not here,
Yes.
sorry. Mr. Santana? Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. Weber? Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Yes,
Mayor Bontempo? Okay, the minutes have been approved.
yes,
Okay,
thank you.
okay, the minutes are approved.
Thank you. So the next is
Okay,
any public comment on agenda items, Wendy? So if anybody from the public has a
Okay.
question on agenda items,
I have two hands up right now.
I see hands are raised. Yes.
Carrie, are you going
Uh,
to, or would you like me to?
Chris Briamonte was the first one. Yep, I got it. He's in.
Hi, this is Chris Briamonte, 30 Falcon Ridge Circle in Holmdel. I have a question regarding one of the items on the agenda dealing with acceptance of funds for the Holmdel Library. My question was to the point of how much money has Holmdel actually already spent on the library? I don't know if Sharon can answer that.
Is there a particular point in time that you're talking about, or overall,
Yeah, so
a specific item?
the point in time,
Very
Sharon.
broad question. I'm not sure how.
Well, my point in time question has to do with, I thought that originally when the library was being built, it was being built at no cost to Holmdel taxpayers. That's what we were told. So I'm wondering how much is actually it costed Holmdel taxpayers? Is there a bond that we issue? Do we pay interest and principal on that bond every year? how much is it costing taxpayers for the construction of the library?
I can answer about the bonds. We had
What I will say is,
two
I
bonds
know,
issued, one for Did you get that? I don't.
Builder.
I think you cut out, Bill.
Yeah, we had two bonds. We had one for, two bond ordinances, one for $2 million, the other for $20,000 to supplement that. We spent all that money and right now we're paying the debt on it. I don't have the exact numbers here because I'm not at town hall, but we do have those numbers at town hall.
Okay, it would be great if you could publish those numbers. I thought, so it sounds like we're paying $2 million for the library. I thought the last time Mr. Bontempo ran for election, his campaign said that there were no funds spent, no taxpayer funds spent on the library. So I'm curious as to why we're still taking in funds, A, and I'm curious as to why we ended up spending money on the library.
So I never said that there were no taxpayer funds spent on the library. And when your timing is correct?
I didn't time it only because it was back and forth.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that was never said. So we issued a bond to pay for the construction of the library. We got a 30-year lease for no cost for the library.
But we spent $2 million. We took a bond for $2 million. So on that bond, we pay principal and interest, correct?
Again, answer all your questions, ask all your questions, we can then respond.
That's my question. We pay principal and interest on that $2 million bond, correct? And we were informed back at the time that it was being built, that it would be built with no cost to taxpayers. I actually recall a campaign flyer about that.
Bill, are we paying interest on the loan, on the bond?
Yes, it was taken out with one of the recent issues of our serial bonds.
And was the township, were the taxpayers made aware of that when that happened? Because pretty sure if you polled us, we'd all tell you that we didn't think any taxpayer funds were going to the library.
Was Mike, Mike, in 2017, you were council, correct?
That's correct, Mayor, yes.
So was there a public meeting for the bonding of the library?
Yes, yes, Mayor, there was a bond ordinance that was issued. Specifically, the public purpose was for the fit out of the library. It was a $2 million bond. The required 5% down payment was made by the township, so 1.9 million could be issued. And I believe there was a subsequent amendment for an extra $100,000. All of those bonds were duly adopted, had the required 2/3 votes, and were adopted by the township committee. So those bonds were issued based upon public approval after public hearing.
There was an introduction and then approval later for the ordinances.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I can also say that we're getting a $1 million contribution towards our debt service from Somerset. They're paying us off over a number of years.
So they're paid $1 million bill over 20 years, I believe, correct?
Yes, yes. So they're paying us annually for that. And we do, beginning of this year, we're going to anticipate that to offset any debt service for the library.
Yep, yep. So appreciate the question. Any other questions in queue, Wendy?
Yes,
We
we
got it
have.
right, Karen.
And Sean McDermott is the next one.
Okay, I'm going to do the timer. Sean, just state your questions and then we'll all be answered at once.
Good evening. I have a statement that I'd like to read. I'm not sure
Name
how,
and address, please.
I'm sorry?
Name and address, please. Your name and address,
Sean
please.
Yes, Sean McDermott, 4 Riverside Lane, Holmdel.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how the agenda item for a gift of $77,000 for video equipment in the library is suitable to be voted on at this time. I find it a bit odd that we do not even have the 2020 budget in place, and we are in the middle of a pandemic and lockdown for residents and businesses alike. Surely there is going to be a significant revenue shortfall in the upcoming year and possibly for a couple of years afterwards. The following type of events could trigger a financial disaster for the township. People are losing their jobs and possibly their homes. Businesses are unable to make rent, and landlords will be requesting tax reductions from the township as their lessees default and their properties devalue. The Holmdel courts have been closed without revenue coming in, and PNC will be shuttered for the season as they canceled Broadway today until Labor Day of this year. That's a couple of $100,000 easy. The township could incur additional expenses managing the fallout of COVID-19. In terms of the library, we were told in 2017 that we would have a state-of-the-art library and a learning center in Bellworks at no cost to our taxpayers. The township bonded over $1 million for the library, I think in 2018, and the debt service to the taxpayers is probably in the realm of 30 to 40K per year. The library too will be affected by this pandemic. I am sure it will see less patronage and usage due to the people having to touch books and computers. This is the new norm. I am sure the library business model will change and they will be doing more things like ebooks in the future. There were too many financial unknowns going forward in 2020, and the township committee needs to manage the taxpayers' finances properly. This gift could be utilized for at least maybe 2 to 3 years of debt service on the library portion of the bond. Isn't that more fiscally responsible instead of a bunch of overpriced monitors sitting on a wall acting as a bulletin board? We're in uncharted waters, and anyone supporting this type of initiative would be derelict in their responsibility to the town and its taxpayers. This seems very rushed and out of place to be on the agenda tonight when the committee hasn't even met in 2 months and we have too many financial unknowns in front of us. It almost reeks of political patronage in the Library Foundation acting like a PAC in the face of an upcoming election. I'd like to get some feedback from committee members and their thoughts concerning no budget in place at this time and probable shortfalls going forward, and where this gift could be better utilized than video equipment in the facility, which most likely will see a downturn as well.
Thank you for your question.
I'll respond to that question. I just want to share with you that I have reached out to the Library Foundation, and I do a lot of work with foundations. I'm a professional fundraiser for a major university. And so I'm very aware of how foundations have to make gifts and what their limitations and restrictions are. And it is my understanding that the Holmdel Library Foundation cannot use their funds to pay down debt service, because that was something that I had actually initially approached them about, that their funds have to be used for specific improvements to enhance the services of the library to the residents that it serves. So, you know, while I think your concept is one of interest, I did approach that concept, and that it does not fall within the purview of the foundation, and they have to follow their, you know, rules and restrictions for making gifts. And so it needs to be used for things, you know, specific projects or items that enhance the services, of which this is one that was in the original proposal and was never fulfilled. So that's why it's coming across.
Considering we don't have a 2020 budget, it's a little bit premature. I think that it should be studied further by the committee once they have a budget in hand and see what other priorities are potentially there for the library instead of video monitors. There might be other expenses that they have to retrofit the library for, you know, social distancing or new equipment that they have to buy. It's unknown.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you. Any other questions in queue, Wendy?
Yes.
Next in line is Barbara Singer.
Please state your name and address.
Okay, Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road, Holmdel. Since we're on a topic I know something about, Kathy, I want to thank you for that explanation on how the foundation can properly spend that money. I do agree with Mr. McDermott, or a couple of comments that were made about the political patronage. For everyone's edification, it is our mayor's wife who runs that foundation, and for years I've been asking what's going on with that money. And it's indeed curious that nothing gets donated until he's running his next campaign. And I think that's why our residents are having these questions. Everyone is, well aware, so let's not pretend we all don't know that. Greg, as to what you said, that you never said this was free, I have the articles you're quoted in, so many of them. You said it at a township meeting, it's on video. So it's just so disingenuous to statements you did tonight that you never said that. Mr. Collins, as to public approval of the bonds, the public doesn't get to approve. We don't get a vote. Any positive feedback that may have been provided was based on us being told that this was all free. So I don't really think anyone stood up and objected to the bonding based on the fact we were told it would be free. So now I guess my question is, I have two. One, I understand, I believe Bellworks pays $50,000 a year to us toward this. How much are Holmdel's actual annual payments? That's one question. And what was my other question is then, given this representation that this would be free to the residents, what is the township and township committee going to do to fulfill that promise?
So the library was never for free. We bonded, as we said, to Mr. Briamonte publicly twice for the initial bond, and then the subsequent bond. All bond ordinances get noticed and then get voted on 2 weeks or a subsequent meeting in a public manner where questions can be answered. So everything was done publicly. We have not raised taxes at all since the library went in. We had a generous donation from the owner of Bellworks to help offset the cost of the library. So in essence, there has been no material impact. And honestly, if you're really concerned about the cost of the library, you would look at the amount of money we pay in to the county for managing the library. I think that's probably an area that could be dived into. But obviously, because I'm running for re-election, everything becomes political. Also, everybody comes out and has an issue with the library that we have provided to our residents, which is probably the crown jewel from the basement to
for the last few
Bellworks
years before he was ever running for re-election. So it's not political, period.
So any other questions? And thank you for your comments. Any other question in queue, Wendy?
There's nobody's hand up. If anybody is I don't think anyone's calling via phone either.
Okay, so for consent items 2020-156 to 2020-162, I am going to recuse myself of 2020-162. Besides that, do I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda items?
Mayor, just to clarify, are you excluding that from the consent agenda, or are you? Okay, that solves that. Okay, very good. So Committeeman Curtelli clarified. Committeeman Curtelli, you asked to poll 162.
Yes, let's pull 162. I have a little information I'd like to share with the residents.
Okay, so it's a motion on the remainder of the consent agenda, I believe.
If we-
Right. So it'd be 2020-156 to 2020-161 that we're doing right now. Motion?
Yes, and I'll make that motion. Motion.
Second.
Second? Roll call?
Second.
Yes,
Mr.
second.
Catali?
Roll call.
We got
Yes.
a second. We got Kathy as a second.
Yes.
I think, okay. So I'm doing roll call. Mr. Catali?
Yes.
Mr. Catali, roll call? Okay. Mr. Santana?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Mr. Santana? Thank you. Ms. Weber?
Yes, with a note.
Okay, thank you. And Mayor Bontempo?
Yes, with a note.
Yes.
Got it. Mayor Bontempo?
Yes, yes. Did you hear me one? Yes,
Yep, got it.
yes,
Okay, so 2021-56 to 2021-61 have all passed.
okay.
So now
Discussion on ones, Kathy, you want to
2021-62,
run?
Mr. Catali?
Can I take the lead on this since I asked to have it pulled? Hello? Okay,
Yes.
Yes.
thank you. So obviously the residents have some significant, serious concerns about this request to the foundation. And Mayor, I think I heard you say you did not promise a new library and learning center at no cost to residents, but I believe you're incorrect. And Barbara pointed that out. So try to be, state of the truth for a few minutes here. The township did borrow $2.2 million, and it's correct. Somerset Development did make a contribution of $1 million, which is $50,000 a year. That's accurate. But the town's still on a hook for $1.1 million plus interest. I did a little digging. Some residents have asked what the interest carry is. Well, the interest carry in 2019 was $83,000. I'm sorry, $82,000. And the interest carry this year is $81,959. If you add that to the principal, we're paying $212,000 per year for the principal and interest on this library. I have to agree that it doesn't make sense right now to ask for money from the foundation when we don't have a budget in place. We don't understand what the costs are going to be to operate all of our departments. And one of the residents brought up an excellent point about social distancing at the library. That may be something that we want to contribute to. So I'm going to make an amendment to the, and I don't think the amendment's going to pass, but my thought was we should be going back to the foundation and asking them to fulfill the mayor's commitment to the residents that this facility would be built at no cost to the residents. Right now, we're upside down $424,000 in cash flow, never mind future debt and interest. So my amendment is we should go back to the foundation and ask them for $499,000. That would be principal and interest for 2019 and 2020, as well as these display boards that they want to put up that, like Mr. McDermott said, would be used for nothing really of substance. Any other questions from the committee questioning any of these numbers? I have the spreadsheet in front of me that I put together. I'm happy to share it.
So Tom, I don't question the expense of the library because indeed, when the library was first proposed, I questioned the costs from the public. What I do question is what the foundation is able to provide to us. And the foundation cannot, per their bylaws, and understand that they are under Attorney General review about how they spend their funds. They cannot use that money for debt service. They have to use it for specific enhancements and gifts to the library in a going forward basis, because I attempted to pursue that, but that is not an option under the bylaws of the foundation. And my objective here is to get the money from the foundation to make for useful things to improve the library so we can move forward. And quite frankly, because of all the controversy in this foundation, I would like to see it fold and cease and desist. And if going forward, we feel we need to raise additional funds for the library, I think we need to start from scratch and have a whole new foundation. But while there is existing funds available to us to enhance the library and meet the commitments that were originally proposed to the public, I think there's a need to do so.
I don't think we're meeting the commitments to the public, though, Kathy, if you think about it. The public did not anticipate paying for any of this.
The foundation money is not ours to spend. It is the foundation's, and they cannot spend it on the debt service. I already pursued that.
How much money does the foundation actually have?
I don't
You
know
know?
their current exact balance.
Why don't we ask them to just donate the money to the town so the town can control what goes forward?
They can't do that either. In terms of the way the foundation has to make a grant is it has to be tied to a specific invoice for a specific project. Because if they just gave the money to the township, we could go spend it on turf fields. They have to show that it is directly spent on library enhancements and improvements per their charter. That's the problem. So I pursued that.
Did you review the charter and the bylaws, Kath?
I did.
Yourself, or you did? Could you,
I did, Tom.
would you be able to get me a copy of those? I'd like to read them. Maybe our attorney should review them.
That would be appropriate for the attorney to do, perhaps.
So,
but
you know, why don't we do
foundations,
this?
Tom, you have to understand this, foundations are private entities
I
that
understand
have
that.
their own board and have to follow their own procedures about how they make gifts. And those gifts come with constraints from the gifting entity. They have to specify, you know, they will say how that gift is to be used. This is common, that's common procedure for receiving gifts from foundations.
I'd like to,
we had issues with spending money last year that were kept away from the township committee of $60,000, and we never had a conversation like this about, you know, what can we do to protect the public from the $60,000 that was spent, besides you know, my knowledge, Commissioner Pascucci's knowledge, and last year Deputy Mayor Nicholas's knowledge. So, you know, it's in addition to that, we had, you know, concerns about checks being sent to you and or your company for money that was, you know, probably shouldn't have been done based on a.
what does this have to do with the library foundation and the resolution?
No, you have to do it. It has to do with money that you're saying on the taxpayer's dime. You have no problem taking money for yourself, right, on the taxpayer's dime. This is not on the taxpayer's dime, right? This is on a separate entity that is making a separate donation. So, you know, it's just completely jaded and how this is going on. So I said, you know, I think what Deputy Mayor Weber said is actually accurate and very salient points. So any further discussion from the committee on this?
Yeah, in 2018, when I was mayor, I asked the foundation to turn over some money, and most of the board resigned. So this is not something that you can sweep under the carpet, Mayor. This is something that the residents expect answers for. I'm going to amend my motion to table this resolution and have the attorney review, our township attorney, or better yet, maybe special counsel, since everybody seems to want to use special counsel these days, review the bylaws to see if there's an appropriate way to shut down that foundation and have the money donated to Holmdel Township. That's the resolution I'm putting on the table.
Yeah, do
Deputy Mayor, since I recused myself, you could call for the vote.
Well, is there a
There
second?
has to be a second for the motion. If there's no second, the motion fails.
That's correct.
So I have a question. Following Mr. Critelli's thought, do we even have jurisdiction over this?
No.
Okay, so I previously, Committeewoman Weber, you mentioned that it would be a better idea to spend the money and start from scratch. Can you explain that a little more?
Yes, there's been a lot of controversy about the current Holmdel Library Foundation, which I have not been involved in, by the way. And it is my understanding that the best thing to do is meet the initial commitments that were made relative to the library projects and enhancements. And again, I have no control over this because the foundation is a private entity, but I would recommend that they, spend their funds towards enhancements to the library and then close their doors. And if we have additional needs to fund the library, we look to start a new foundation going forward. But again, it's the foundation's bylaws and constraints. They're a private entity and they're at play here, and we cannot tell them what to do or how to do it.
So following that thought, we could pay for this audiovisual and also support social distancing technology, whether Zoom or whatever it is at the library.
Correct. My understanding is they have additional funds. I don't want to quote the exact number because I don't have it at my fingertips, but this does not deplete their resources.
So could we amend the agreement to include social distancing Zoom type video as well to this?
I would prefer that we got the information on what is needed to do so. I think we deal with this as is, and then we can certainly ask the library what, if any, additional needs they might have and bring those up at the next meeting.
Okay, great.
Kathy, I agree, Kathy, that we should request funds. I think we should request all of the funds at this time to continue down
But
this
we have to
path.
have something to request them for, Tom. We can't just say, give us your money. We have to have specific projects.
Kathy, I second the move.
Which motion?
162.
162 as is? All right,
As
well,
is.
let me just back up. Tom had an amendment on the floor. Was there a second for that amendment? I did not hear one.
No.
So now, if there's not, that amendment dies and we go to the original item 162, which I need a motion for.
Move.
Mr. Santana.
Okay.
I'll second the motion. Call the roll. Can't hear you, Wendy.
I'm wondering if it's your connection, Wendy.
I don't know. Mr. Critelli,
No,
Mr. Santana,
Yes.
Ms. Weber,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tempo recuses. Correct.
Recuse. Yep.
Okay, so right now we have a 2-1 vote. A recusal, unlike an abstention, is over a conflict of interest and means that the member is treated as not being present. So if the mayor were not present, you would have 3 committee members present. It's a simple resolution which requires a majority of those present, which would be 2 votes. So in this case, the resolution does pass.
Thank you, Counselor. For next part is department updates. Administrator, start with you, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank our Public Works Department for their hard work in trying to adjust to the large item drop-off this weekend. And I know that there were some long lines, but as everyone knows, we were trying desperately to figure out a way to do this in compliance with the governor's executive order and still be able to allow a lot of our residents to drop off their large items. On Saturday, we had approximately 700 vehicles. Before that, our largest day ever was 300 vehicles. We went through 19 dumpsters as opposed to 12 dumpsters, which is usually our max. When we started, the line was a little bit long. The DPW department on their feet quickly readjusted to shorten that line. We actually went from about a vehicle a minute to a vehicle every 36 seconds. Hopefully next week we don't have quite as many. I know the last time we did a large item drop off was September, and I know a lot of people have been home, so have gathered a lot of items. We're not anticipating as long a line because of the adjustments that we made, and also we just don't think there'll be as many cars. But I just wanted to thank everybody in our Public Works Department for making that effort. We couldn't do it the normal way. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. CFO Bill, any updates from you?
I just want to remind people that the drop box is available because the tax payments have been, the due date was postponed as we did at the last meeting, and we ask that you do not leave cash in the drop box up front, please.
Anything else, Bill?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Attorney, anything from legal?
No, Mayor, I do not have any update. Thank you.
Thank you. And engineer on the line, Sean?
No, he's not. If there's any questions on any of the work that he's working on, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay.
Just want to note that I had a call with both the architect and the engineer on the firehouse earlier today. The survey has been completed for the firehouse, and the architect and engineer are working on final designs and elevations, and so we're moving along on that project.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Updates from the committee. Can I start with Deputy Mayor Weber?
Yes, I'd just like to say that, you know, one of the silver linings of this nightmare that we're living through right now is many more people are out walking and biking. We had delayed the kickoff of the Traffic and Bike Safety Committee because of the resources our town hall was needing to focus on relative to fighting the pandemic. I have spoken with Sharon, and I'm hopeful to get an appointee soon from the Police Department Traffic Safety, and we'll attempt to hold our first Traffic and Bike Safety Committee via Zoom, because I do think there's, I'm very happy to see so many residents out now walking and biking, and I think we have a real opportunity here. So that's my committee report. Do you want me to just limit it to committee reports and then I'll go to other things? Or?
You can cover everything now.
Okay. So the other thing I just want to mention in kind of context with large item drop off is I know we had to suspend the plastic bag recycling effort because of moving things in town hall. Is there some way that I would like to see we can put that drop box somewhere so we can donate our plastic bags? Because my house runneth over now, and I think others do as well. So if we could see if we could do something about that, I think it would be useful.
I will look into that tomorrow.
Good
Thank
point.
you. And the last thing I would just like to say on a personal note, because those of you, many of you may recall, and I will say this again, at our last regular public meeting, I was the one that raised the red flag about the potential impact of the economy and about our spend, spend, spend mentality, which I have been speaking to from the public for several years now over reckless and useless spending. And I raised that flag at that meeting and was rebuffed somewhat for that. So I'm glad to see that people understand the seriousness of the situation now. And I just want to add, because I take that situation quite seriously, I have asked the township administrator to suspend my pay going forward until such time as we know that we are in recovery and on solid footing. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Committeeman Critelli, any updates from your committee?
No updates today, Mayor, but I do want to refresh your memory. In 2017, this was your campaign flyer. And you clearly said you were building a library and learning center at no cost to the taxpayers. So you're being disingenuous once again. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Committeeman Santana.
No updates now. We're still waiting for the budget to be done so we can have a meeting with the Finance Committee and also discuss what's the best way to move forward and project the revenue shortfall, which is going to hit us. So waiting.
Thank you. A couple updates. First, I want to, the PPE drive that we've been doing for probably the last 6 or 7 weeks has been a great team effort, as everyone knows. Our OEM coordinator, Detective Hernando, has done an outstanding job helping coordinate that. But behind the scenes, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge all the work that Committeeman Pascucci, Deputy Mayor Weber have done, coordinating with residents, pickup, drop-offs, getting information, helping to collect their addresses so their donations could be acknowledged. It's been a great team effort, and I could tell you firsthand that the PPE that we collected has been put into good use. It's helping our first responders and also helping some of the medical professionals at Bayshore Medical Center in our backyard. So it really great team effort, and I'd like to thank everybody for their help, support, and contributions during that. Second thing, it was an update we got from the state today regarding the census. There'll be information going out later this week regarding asking residents from their homes, being socially distanced responsible, to reach out to 5 neighbors each and ask them if they have filled out the census yet. If they haven't filled it out, there's a link that we could share, that they could share, to ask people to please do it. The census is important because it helps with funding to our state and our community, especially now with COVID. There is funding that has come from the federal government. I think it was like $107 million that went to the county. And the county is going to start dispersing it to the different 53 municipalities in Monmouth County. So we are expecting to get some funding from that in the near future as the guidelines are determined. So people that want to help out with the census and reach out to neighbors, that would be great. We also got reached out from a business in the Freehold community that has been disinfecting first responder vehicles. And I know they are in process of sending the township a proposal to offer those same services for free to our first responders, police, fire, first aid, etc. So more to come on that, but it was a generous offer from them. I think that's it. Anything else from the committee? Cool. Wendy, can you open up to any public comment?
Sure. Raise your hand if you have any public comment, please.
Not seeing any. Oh,
Yeah, yep, Karen Strickland. Oh, there we go. Karen Strickland. You got it, Karen?
Got it.
Did you mute?
Karen, you just need to unmute.
and state your name and address, please.
Oh, okay. Karen Strickland, 26 Hayward Hills Drive. I'm just sitting here looking at this agenda. And what exactly is happening at Crawford's Corner Road?
Sharon, can you cover that?
Yes, I was just looking at which one it was. So last year, the township applied for a grant with the DOT to pave the Phase 5 portion of Crawford's Corner Road. So this is just the engineering services that we received a grant of $180,000. And this is the engineering work that is needed to complete that road paving project. If you give me a minute, I will tell you which road, from South Park Court to 7 Oaks Drive. It's about 1,600 feet. And that's our guesstimate. The actual amount that will be paved will be dependent on how the bids come in.
So nothing's being changed. It's just paving that same part of road.
It's just the regular repaving process, yes.
Thank you. I obviously can't read maps. Thank you.
No worries.
We're going to just do it in segments.
And one more public comment here. This is Chris Briamonte.
Mr. Briamonte, if you could please just state your name and address.
Yes, this is Chris Briamonte, 30 Falcon Ridge Circle, Holmdel. I have two questions, so I'll give them both, and then you can answer. The first question is for the mayor. Mr. Mayor, are you going to recant your statement you made to me today at the start of the meeting when you said you never said that the library was built at no cost to the Holmdel taxpayers? Second question, Committeeman Santana. Since it is your habit to speak to local reporters and accuse your fellow committee members of fraud, I'm curious about your silence on the $1.2 million that was spent on the library. Thank you.
First,
So let me, and then you can go. So the flyer, which is made by not by me directly, by a group that sends out marketing material. I'm not sure of their interpretation, but we have not raised taxes, so the library has not generated an additional cost to taxpayer by a bill increase. We've been pretty good fiscally management. And honestly, the library was everything we did, for the architectural plans to the presentation to the public, well before the plans were approved by the township committee, to the bonding for the library, everything was done in a public fashion. So there was nothing hidden. You know, when you're struggling to find ways to attack person, you're grasping for straws. So there's nothing here. If you guys want to meet in groups and continue to put a team together to come on our calls and talk about the same thing, you know what? If that makes you happy, that's fine. But
Mr. Mayor, you're changing your tune, Mr. Mayor. That's not what you said.
That's what I said.
Not raising the tax bill. For you to say that there was no additional tax raised to the Holmdel Township people is not the same as no tax dollars spent. And you know that. You're being disingenuous.
No, we got $1 million.
Are you saying you didn't know that flyer went out, Mr. Mayor?
Listen, absolutely. So I'm telling you right now, everything we did in public. Everybody had a chance to comment on the bonding and the ordinances that we adopted and the plans for the library and the approval of it. Listen, if my memory serves me correctly, it was a 5-0 vote on everything that had to do with the library. Everybody was behind it. Everybody voted on the bonding, the plans, the approval, the construction. Nothing changed. So you know what? A flyer went out. I didn't create that flyer. You know what? We've done a pretty good job in creating a library at a very economical cost. That we went from a basement and increased the size by what, 500%. I'm very proud of all the work that went into this library. It's a great asset for the community. Listen, you can make up all the comments you want about it, Mr. Rimonti. The fact stands that we accomplished something that nobody prior, and I've had the years and years of files from the former clerk that I went through about the costs and the millions of dollars that was spent. We did an incredible job putting that in an iconic building. And I think all the work that was done was nothing but exemplary. So, Prim Santana, you want to respond to the second comment or question?
Sure. Mr. Briamonte, thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. First, I'd like to understand what specifically are you asking me to look into? What is the nature of the fraud that you think as it relates to township funds? So if you could be very clear about that, I'm happy to look into it.
Mr. Santana, I did not say that there was a fraud. I said you
Okay,
have, what I said was you have in the past gone to the local papers and accused your township committee partners of fraud. That's what I said. And I'm curious as to why you're silent on the $1.2 million that was spent. That's what I'm asking.
Because I didn't think there was anything fraudulent or illegal on the part of the with respect to the township funds. So that's why I've been silent, because anything to do with the foundation is none of my business.
And additionally, I know this is going on a little longer than normal, but the revenues we've gotten from the pilot that were new revenues to town also help cover the cost of the spend. So from the $1 million donation plus the pilot money we've received, there's been no additional cost to the taxpayers. We've done a pretty good job in kind of controlling costs and not spending where we didn't have the need to. And the library was a big need and a big void. I appreciate your comments. Anybody else in queue, Wendy?
Yes. Got it, Karen?
Yep. Sean McDermott was next in line.
Mr. McDermott, please state your name and address and make your comment.
Unmute. Mr. McDermott, please state your name and address for the record. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please state
Okay,
your
I'm
name.
sorry. Thank you. I must have hit my mute button accidentally. Hi, Sean McDermott, 4 Riverside Lane. Mayor, unfortunately, you sit in a seat where you will draw criticism, and especially in light of your closeness to the foundation and the issues that are not sitting well with people in town, you will hear people comment on this. This is, we are taxpayers, and unfortunately, you might not like what you hear, and your accusations of little groups, these are real issues. Now, I agree with Kathy in terms of this foundation should be dissolved. Okay. I would request that you go back and examine your position in terms of taking the $77,000 at this time. I think you should regroup and discuss further with both the county and the foundation as far as what will the library's needs be going forward, because this town, and I've heard 2 of you go on record as saying that we're going to have shortfalls, tremendous shortfalls with this pandemic. There might be other needs that money is better well spent instead of sending video about how wonderful Holmdel is as a town, okay? You might need glass between locations where PCs sit, additional cost. We do not have a budget in place, and to vote for and go forward on that amendment is a disservice to the taxpayers, considering you don't know what costs are upcoming. You should pull that back, wait for another meeting, regroup, and then ask for public comment on what improvements are needed for the library at that time.
Thank you for your comment.
Mayor,
Anybody
if I could
else?
just make one legal point in response to the comment, I just want to clarify so everyone, the committee and the public is understanding of the resolution tonight. The resolution was allowing for the acceptance of the donation in the sense that if the foundation were to proceed, they would be procuring the proposed items and giving them to the township, literally handing over those physical items. So there is no check that is being cut from the foundation into the township's general fund. And I can say that from past practice, when there have been other contributions in the past from the foundation to the township, they have similarly been completed in a manner where the foundation procures the item and the item itself is given to the township. So there is no check that's being cut, just to kind of correct, because I did hear that being referenced. There's no check to the township that is being cut or has been cut in the past.
It's a sizable donation.
That's correct, sir, but no check is being cut. Just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And I would like to just add something.
Please do,
relative
Kathy.
to any future needs as a result of COVID-19. The resources that are coming via the state and the federal government are have to be spent explicitly on COVID-19 expenditures. And we have been tracking, and Sharon, you know this better than I do, but I have been sitting on White House briefing calls, as well as calls with Bloomberg Philanthropy, city leadership initiatives. And those funds, we cannot just dump into our regular budget and use to cover revenue loss or that sort of thing. They have to be used specifically for COVID things that resulted as a result of COVID-19. So should the library require, enhancements or modifications, that is something that I would like to, certainly would pursue and looking at that source of revenue for.
Understood. But at the same time, with the sizable investment coming from the foundation,
I heard
there
you.
should be.
Wendy, anybody else in queue?
Yes, we have one more person with their hand up.
James Yanello.
Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive.
Got it, thank you.
Hi, I don't want to get involved in all the nuances and what was marketed and not marketed about the library, but as I've made in the past, I just have to make a comment about the planned vigilantes at some of these meetings for political purposes because they weren't happy about the last election. This is part of a group of people that had no problem with the turf field and light towers being buried in the bills payable at the swim club. These are people that had no problem with a turf field and towers, millions of dollars to be spent at Cross Farm Park. That was fine with them. And I don't recall any of these people complaining when the architect of those plans held up that $1 million check coming from Bell Works without it being clear that it was payable in increments over God knows how many years. We obviously appreciate the money from Bell Works, but none of these people had any problems with that. I just truly wonder if they realize how silly they look to the general population, how silly they don't complain about these huge items, but when it comes to a library situation where everything was done above board, whether it was marketed one way or not, excuse me, I'm not getting involved in that. But this was all voted on, it appears unanimously. It was done with daylight on it. And I just wonder if these people really think about how they look, how silly they look. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Wendy, anybody else in queue?
Nope, I don't see anybody. Just give it one more minute, just in case. Nope, that's it.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
We have a second? Second? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.